Kind of gearing back into not necessarily just even the supply chain world, but robotics and artificial intelligence as a whole view is, I know you want to do more than just supply chain AI. I know you eventually want to get into, bigger things, such as like space. So what is this thing when it comes to space and the space exploration as it's becoming now and more with SpaceX and all these different programs?
Yeah. What
do you think the opportunities come from space travel?
Yeah, so let me start off by unpacking the entire introduction to that question. I can't speak for the group. I initially got into entrepreneurship because I was in love with the tech, and my big thing was like, I want to make more money to build this tech that I think could impact people's lives more.
Yeah.
The first thing for me was, all right, I'm into harvesting resources and taking those resources from point A to point B.
Yep.
That for me, that's my thing. Like that's what I dream about. That's what I like.
Wild dreams.
I love talking to people about. It's just harvesting. How do we harvest resources and take them from point A to point B?
Yeah.
That's my shtick. And right now the logistics industry is like prime for doing exactly that.
Yeah.
It's the low hanging fruit because it's so technology starved that having the technology framework to just harvest the packages or the orders and taking them from point A to point B from where it is initially to the endpoint to the customer and getting it done in a fast and easy way. It's like the perfect testing ground for a bigger version of harvesting and transportation. But I initially got into this venture from my passion in asteroid mining.
Okay.
So,
what is asteroid mining?
Yeah. I came across it one time in summer after my sophomore year in college at UCR. I got kicked out of school. Low GPA. I went from like a 3.8 GPA to a 2.6 and then a 0.0
Oof.
quarterly. I just got tired of school. I took too much to chew on, and I chewed more than I could take.
Yeah.
And I got kicked out. And I was like, part of me was very relieved because I didn't want to do college in the first place.
Yeah.
And then in that relief, I realized I had $126 in my bank account. I had to pay rent soon. I still hadn't told my parents, I got kicked out of college. And so the question was like, what the hell do I do next? I'm 19. I got to do something with my life. And asteroid mining somehow popped up. Okay. And it just never left after that. It popped up in an article and I kept reading on it more. And by the end of the week, I was like, all right, I have to go back and get my engineering degree. Like, I have to be part of this asteroid mining thing. So asteroid mining is basically the harvesting of resources from the asteroid belt or asteroids in space and obtaining those resources and using them in a way that helps the human race expand into a better civilization.
Yep.
So just a little quick kind of thing I like to say about asteroid mining all the time to explain it to people is the reason why it's important is because even one asteroid, it has water, platinum, nickel, all these valuable resources. But the biggest asteroid in the asteroid belt series has so much water that if you run all that water down Niagara Falls runs dry right now if it had started running when the Egyptian pyramids were built. Wow. So that's how much water the biggest asteroid in the asteroid belt has. And that's important because obviously water is a scarce resource and we have a growing population.
Yep.
But also a lot of people don't know this. Water breaks up into rocket fuel.
Yep.
Water is H2O, hydrogen, and oxygen. And rocket fuel today is made up of mostly liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen.
Yep.
LOX and LH2. And so what it basically opens up is the ability to have basically space gas stations to help us conquer and like colonize more of space while we're up there. And the reason why the rocket fuel thing is important is because we actually use most of the rocket fuel from the point we leave Earth to the point we get to space. Once we get to space, there's no friction. So, you use little rocket fuel to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But most of our rocket fuel is already used up by the time we get to space. So if we can refuel once we're up there, that would be a huge boost for all of us. So I got into asteroid mining and I'm like, all right, well, I want to make robots that harvest resources and get them from point A to point B in space, whether that is to Mars, the moon, Earth, whatever it is. And then I'm like, all right, well, I got to start somewhere. That's $1 billion buy-in. I'm not going to get in it right after college. So I started with, the simplest thing I could think of, which was taking objects from my 3D printer and putting them in a box or dropping them off somewhere. And that later turned into getting a box in a warehouse and taking it from point A to point B, to just taking the box from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And that's where we are now.